going to compare fractions with word problems, and we're going to use number lines to help us. You guys know that this is not my favorite strategy because it can get a little messy. However, on your test on Friday, they're going to have pre-drawn number lines for you, and they're going to have 2 sets of fractions on 1 number line. So I want to make sure we have plenty of practice partitioning number lines 2 different ways. In your notes, our very first word problem says that I ate 1/6 of a pizza and my brother ate 2/6 of the same pizza. Who ate the most pizza? The numbers they gave us in this problem are in the form of fractions, 1/6 and 2/6. I'm going to write them out to the side so I can see them a little easier. By just looking at my fractions, I notice that both of them have the same denominator. So when I'm drawing my number line, I just need to partition it into 6 because they have the same denominator of 6. So underneath that first word problem, go ahead and draw your number line and remember our intervals of 0 and 1. Again, since both of my fractions are in 6, I'm going to break my number line into 6. Remember, 6 is even, so you can break it in half first, and then each of your sections you can split into thirds. And we can go through and label all of our fractions now. Remember that whole number 1 is equal to the fraction that has the same number on the top and bottom. So I'm going to plot both of these fractions on my number line, 1/6 and 2/6. The one that is further away from 0, the one that's longer, is going to be the fraction that is greater. And that's what my question was asking, who ate the most pizza? So if I were to shade in from 0 to 1/6, that line is going to be shorter than if I were to shade in from 0 to 2/6. My green line is longer than my red line. And my question says who. So I need to write the name of the person who ate more pizza. So the person who ate 2/6 was my brother. So in my answer, I would write my brother. In your next example, it says Shannon read 1/3 of her book and Alex read 1/4 of the same book. Who read most of the book? So I'm going to write my fractions out to the side that they gave me, 1/3 and 1/4. When I look at my fractions, I see that both of them have a different denominator. And since 4 is not a double of 3, I have to draw 2 separate number lines. Remember that they have to be the same exact length. I'm going to draw one number line, label my endpoints 0 and 1, and break it into thirds. And right underneath it, I'm going to label my endpoints for that second number line, and then partition that number line into fourths. Since 4 is even, I know I can split it in half, and then cut each of those sections in half. I'm going to label my fractions. Again, that fraction 3/3 is equal to 1 whole because it has the same number in the numerator and the denominator. Same thing with 4/4. It equals 1 whole. So I'm going to plot where 1/3 is and where 1/4 is. If I were to shade from 0 to 1/4 and from 0 to 1/3, the line from 0 to 1/3 is a little bit longer. And since we're drawing and it's not as accurate, and this is a pretty close, but line up pretty closely, I'm going to double check with the butterfly method just to make sure that my pictures are adequate. So out to the side, I'm going to check using the butterfly method. I'm going to crisscross 3 times 1, multiply, which equals 3, and 1 times 4. And the fraction with the bigger number on top is going to be the bigger amount, so 1/3, and that matches what we had in our drawing. So again, my question says who. I need a name. 1/3 is not answering who read the most. So the person who read 1/3 of the book would be Sharon, and that would be your answer. Your last example says Amelia ran 2/3 of a mile and Parker ran 2/6 of a mile. Who ran further? I'm going to write my numbers out to the side again. 2/3, 2/6. My denominators are different, but there's something that I notice. 3 is half of 6. 6 is a double stacked of 3 plus 3. So when I'm drawing my number line this time, I'm going to first break it into thirds. Go ahead and draw your number line in your notes. Remember your endpoints, 0 and 1. I'm going to first break it into that smaller denominator of thirds. I'm going to label this before I move any further. So on the bottom, I'm going to write 0/3, 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, which again is at 1 whole. Now, since my fractions are double stacks of each other, I can take this same number line and partition it into 6. To make 6, I can take each of my sections and cut them in half. So this first tick mark would still be 0, and my last one would still be 1. And now I'm going to ignore the fractions underneath, and I can see that I have 6 spaces now. And I'm going to label my 6 on top of my number line. So 0/6, 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, and 6/6, which again is equal to 1 whole. It has the same number on the top and bottom. So now I'm going to put a point on my number line at 2/3. And I'm also going to put a point on my number line at 2/6. Again, the fraction that's bigger is the one that is further away from 0. And this is easier to see when I have one number line to compare them on. So from 0 to 2/6, I shade that in with that solid blue line. And I can go back and shade all the way down to 2/3. My orange line is much longer, so 2/3 would be greater. But again, pay attention to what the question is asking. It says, who ran further? So whoever ran 2/3 of a mile, which was Amelia, she is who ran further. We're going to do one more example. This one is not in your notes, but I just want to cover when you're comparing halves and fourths. Again, my denominators are different, but 4 is a double stacked of 2. So I can stick with one number line. Remember those endpoints of 0 and 1. I'm going to break it into that smaller fraction first. I'm going to cut it in half. And I'm going to label that before I move any further. So all of my halves are labeled underneath. And then I'm going to draw fourths. I can do that by cutting each of my sections in half. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. And again, I have 0 on that very first tick mark and 1 at the very last tick mark. And I'm going to label all of my fourths now on top of my number line. I'm going to plot where 1/2 is and where 3/4 is. And I want to compare them and see which one is greater. If I shade from 0 to 1/2, and then go back and shade 0 to 3/4, I can see that my blue line is longer So when I'm drawing my comparison symbol, the mouth of my alligator